Have you ever just stopped and wondered why some things on the internet absolutely explode? You know, that one cat video, that shocking news story, or some heartwarming clip. It's everywhere. Meanwhile, millions of other things just vanish. It feels totally random, right? Well, what if it's not? What if there's actually a science to what we share? All right, let's get into it.
This is the question of our digital age, isn't it? A couple of researchers from the Wharton School, Jonah Berger and Catherine Milkman, decided they were going to be the ones to answer it. And they weren't just guessing. They dove into a world of hard data to find the hidden triggers that make us all hit that share button.
Now, there's this idea that we all kind of take for granted about what spreads online. You've heard it a million times. If it bleeds, it leads. The thinking is that all the negativity, the controversy, the bad news, that's what really hooks us and makes us want to pass it on. But is that what's really going on?
So these researchers decided to put that whole bad news theory to the test, and what they found was their first huge discovery.
And when I say they tested it, I mean they went big. They didn't just look at a few articles here and there. Nope. They analyzed a massive data set of almost 7,000 articles published by the New York Times over 3 months.
Their method was actually super simple, but really powerful. They just tracked every single one of those articles to see which ones ended up on that most emailed list. This wasn't about what people could share, it was about what they actually chose to share.
And the results? Well, they were crystal clear, and they flew right in the face of that old myth. After crunching all the numbers, the researchers found, without a doubt, that stories with a positive spin were way more likely to get shared than negative ones.
So, let's go ahead and correct the record. It turns out, good news actually travels faster. We're just more likely to share stuff that makes us feel good. Maybe because it makes us look good for sharing it. But hold on. That's not the whole story. It gets way more interesting.
Because if positivity is the only thing that matters, well, then we have a problem. How do you explain that other huge category of viral stuff? The kind that is, anything but positive.
I mean, think about it. Those outraged posts about terrible customer service, or those anxious articles about the economy, or angry political takedowns. Those are definitely not positive, but man, they spread like wildfire. This tells us that just looking at positive versus negative is missing a huge piece of the puzzle.
And that missing piece is something called physiological arousal. Now, don't let the sciencey term fool you. This is something you felt. It's not just an emotion in your head. It's the physical, fired-up feeling that gets your body ready to do something. Your heart might beat a little faster. You feel energized. That's arousal.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. Emotions like awe, which is positive, and anger or anxiety, which are negative, they all have one thing in common. They are high arousal emotions. They get you going. But an emotion like sadness, it does the exact opposite. It's low arousal. It's deactivating. It makes you want to curl up, not take action.
And the data backs this up perfectly. An article that made people feel angry was 34% more likely to make the most emailed list. One that inspired awe, 30% more likely. See, both high arousal. But an article that just made people sad, it was actually 16% less likely to be shared. The key isn't good versus bad, it's the energy that feeling creates.
Okay, so this is a really powerful theory. But seeing a pattern in the wild is one thing. Proving it is another. So the researchers had to take their idea from the real world of the New York Times and bring it into the lab to prove that arousal was really the engine driving us to share.
The experiments they ran were pretty slick. They'd show people different versions of an article, one designed to make them angry, another to make them feel amused. Then, they'd literally measure their physical arousal and ask them, "So, how likely are you to share this?"
And guess what? The lab results were conclusive. Every single time, the stuff that triggered those high arousal emotions, whether it was positive like amusement or negative like anger, it made people feel more fired up. And that feeling directly translated into them wanting to share it more. The sad stuff, it just drained their energy and their desire to share.
So, after all this research, all this data, what's the big takeaway? Let's boil this all down to the actual secret formula for what makes stuff spread.
Here it is, the single most important point. If you want people to share something, you have to make them feel something that gets them activated. It's not about being upbeat, it's not about being a downer, it's about lighting a fire inside them.
So this basically gives us a practical checklist. The most viral content usually does one of these things. It triggers a high arousal emotion, it inspires wonder, or it makes people angry or anxious enough to act. Now, the study also found one other thing. The mental jolt we get from something that's super useful or genuinely surprising, that also gets us activated and drives us to share. But the one constant,
the thing to avoid if you want it to spread, anything that just leaves people feeling sad and deflated.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you find your thumb hovering over that share button, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because of the pure information inside? Or am I sharing it because of the jolt of awe or anger or surprise it just gave me? The answer might tell you a lot.